Hello and welcome to Youth Destiny Nucleus podcast, where young stars discuss young star issues, brainstorm, and try to provide solutions. Welcome back to the podcast discussing the three major challenges of the youth. If you followed up from the very first part of this tripartite podcast, you'd recall that we started by addressing the subject of financial security. And then we moved on to podcast number 2, where we addressed the burning issue of emotional security. Today, we'll be concluding by addressing the third and the final challenge youths of our time are grappling with, and that is the challenge of spiritual security. Spiritual security. At some point as we mature, we all experience what seems like an existential crisis. We begin to question our existence, asking questions like, why was I born? What's my purpose? And what is my role in the grand scheme of things? We become curious about the origin of the universe, not from a scientific standpoint now, but from a more personal standpoint. We begin to crave encounters with a higher power, one that transcends mere human connections. At this phase, we would like to know that we are not just a cosmic mistake. We would like to know that we were created for a purpose and that our existence is backed by a greater purpose. It is this assurance of spiritual security that puts our existence into meaningful perspective. The struggle to fill this spiritual void has led many youths down the path of depression and ultimately suicide. Regardless of your age, class, or race, as long as you are human, this struggle exists. And without appropriate backing from God, life will remain more or less miserable for you. A youth might fix the puzzle of financial security, emotional security, but without addressing the final part, finding God, which is the final piece of the jigsaw, such a youth will continually live a life devoid of meaning. The importance of finding God in the days of your youth cannot be overstated. Those who fail to fill this void are at risk of living lives of misery without purpose and meaning. I'm sure you've read countless stories of billionaires and famous people from all walks of life who lived miserable lives that culminated in suicide. Their experiences show that no amount of money and fame can replace God's role in the life of a youth. How do we then fill this void effectively? The following steps can be followed to help guide you through your quest to finding God. Step number 1 is acknowledge your vulnerability. Acknowledge your vulnerability. Sometimes it can be hard for us to admit that we are vulnerable or hurt, especially as youth. We try to cook up 1,000 excuses to explain why we are just fine on our own and don't need any support or backing from anyone. While this attitude helps build self-reliance, it can also pose a huge threat to your advancements in life and to your quest to finding God. The Bible says in Matthew chapter 7 verse 7 in the New King James Version, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened unto you." If you don't acknowledge your vulnerability, you won't ask or seek. And if you don't do that, you can't find. Point number 2 is find a mentor. You need someone of higher level and experience in life to guide you down this path of finding God. This is where your spiritual leaders come in. Just as you need a mentor in your academics, your business, the same applies to your spiritual growth. When you feel stuck or lost, understand that you can't fix everything. And let this realization guide you to refer to a mentor to help you out through your spiritual battles and struggles. Point number 3 is be intentional about your spiritual growth. You have to be fully vested in studying God's word. If you want to know more about someone, then you must study his principles extensively. Listen to inspiring podcasts, read books, and be intentional about developing a solid spiritual base for yourself. This journey of intentionality, no doubt, will lead you to a point where you no longer be reliant on your spiritual leaders for guidance, because you would have built a really solid relationship with God. This attribute is priceless for every youth in this day and age. because as we navigate through life, there will be challenges and obstacles of different magnitudes. Not to frighten you or anything, but the truth is, only those youths who are equipped with godly principles will overcome these challenges. Many will be consumed in the challenges of life. Your pastor or spiritual leader will not always be there for you when the challenges set in. If you must do something for yourself, please let it be finding God and finding Him early. In conclusion, if you had not known these facts before, know that the spiritual void exists. And one scary thing about this void is that it cannot be left vacant. Human beings are inherently social and spiritual beings by nature that crave these connections. If you don't find God, you'll find something else contrary to God. If you don't find God, you will find addictions. It's no wonder many youths have turned to substance abuse, masturbation, pornography, alcoholism, etc. All these are attempts to fill this void of the spiritual anchor, which can be filled by God and God alone. I pray that you find God and that He guides you to a life of true meaning and satisfaction all through the days of your youth. Thank you so much for sticking with me down to the end of this podcast. I hope that you make conscious attempts to apply these principles into your life, and by the grace of God, your life will change for the better. Thank you once more. Hope to catch up with you guys on subsequent podcasts. Have a great time.